Can you believe that these are already 8 years old? Before I begin, I'd like to thank the good folks at megaaudio.de. They are Germany's exclusive distributor for many high-end audio brands, including Fostex, with a focus on the pro audio segment, and they were kind enough to loan me this headphone for the purpose of this review. At just over €2,000, the TH-900mk2 sits comfortably on Fostex's dynamic driver headphone throne. Inside can be found one of their 50mm biocellulose drivers, and on the outside is quite simply one of the best looking finishes of any headphone ever made. Wooden cups with a coating of red urushi lacquer. It took me a while to get around to it, but I first auditioned this headphone at High-End Munich this year. As previously mentioned, this is an 8-year-old headphone, and since 2016 not only have I sampled my fair share of other flagship tier headphones, but have read reviews and forum posts that have been echoing the same thing for years. These are the widely accepted basshead king of the headphone world. In the box you get the headphone, an owner's manual and brochure, a very soft protein leather drawstring carry bag, and something I'd like to see more of from other headphone manufacturers: a headphone stand. It appears to be a very simple painted MDF construction with no anti-scratch feet on the base, but it is finished well, elegant in its simplicity, and fits the design of the headphone functionally and stylistically. I won't bore you with an extensive analysis of the headphone. The build is excellent, the ergonomics are above average, the fit is a touch wobbly as clamping pressure is looser than average, headband comfort is also about on average, but I do get a hot spot in the middle at the top of my head after a few hours. I found that shortening the headband a notch increases the clamping pressure around the ears, and this may help alleviate the problem. The weight is reasonably well distributed, but a slightly tighter clamp or improved headband padding might be a better fix to the hotspot problem. The cable is a very thick fabric weave, but has a higher flexibility than other similar cables. The length of the cable has always been insane. Not only that, the length of the Y-split is far more than I've ever seen before. It actually reaches below my navel. They also use a proprietary 2-pin socket that looks like Sennheiser, but it's actually not compatible with Sennheiser cables. They are technically compatible if you force them in, but Sennheiser pins are spaced further out by about 0.4mm, which is enough of a risk to cause damage to either the headphone or the cable, and that's something I cannot condone. The extra large plug housing is a welcome feature and an example that I think other companies should follow. I'd give the earpads a low passing grade. At this price, I'm not super happy to see protein leather, but with a simple twist lock system, they're extremely easy to replace or upgrade. Also, on the plus side, they are moderately cavernous and should fit most ears. Despite their ordinary round shape, they are softer than average and easily provide a solid bass seal. Going back to my first taste at High-End Munich, before I put them on, I was of course full of expectations and biases. I put on my bassiest test tracks and knew instantly that the hype was real. The TH-900mk2 is able to render the deepest, tightest, cleanest, and most visceral bass without booming, diffusing the texture, or bleeding into the mid-range. One thing of note that I don't think I was ready for was the slightly narrow soundstage. I think I was expecting staging something a bit bigger than the biodynamic DT770 Pro, but I didn't get that. Instead, I got something even better and more important: an extremely accurate stereo image. That imaging, in combination with the fast, clean presentation, extremely high level of detail, and absolutely flagship tier separation, I can't help feeling like they're the most high-end studio monitor on earth. Except someone left the subwoofer turned on high volume, making them extremely fun and energetic. If I'm completely honest, the TH-900mk2, it's not even that bassy. The bass shelf is only a mere 8 decibels higher than most of the upper mid-range and treble. Objectively and subjectively, it manages to never steer too far away into bass hell, and incredibly retains a subjectively accurate timbre that works well for almost any genre I tried. These also scale very well, but kind of crumble with weaker amps. Out of my Fuzzy Audio SK01, complex recordings occasionally became mushy and less defined, while my Audio GD NFB 11.TXCO on high gain brought out significantly more texture and detail, specifically in the bass region. Even going into low gain mode on the Audio GD, the bass clearly wasn't as defined. I would recommend feeding these as much power as is reasonable. One of the most demanding pieces of music I could throw at this headphone is BFG Division by Mick Gordon. Finally, a headphone worthy of this masterpiece. It actually made me want to reinstall Doom. No other headphone I've ever tested with this piece of music can correctly render the appropriate level of thunderous slam. Another good example is the opening bass line on Mambacore by Infected Mushroom, which has never before sounded so layered and absolutely authoritative. Then, on Doin' It Right by Daft Punk, when the bass notes hit, and you're expecting the third bass note to be quieter than the first two, it isn't. It just hits with just as much authority, which is truly beyond satisfying. To keep things fair, let's talk about the negative. The treble is spicy. On paper, that doesn't appear to be the case. However, it manages to be more piercing than almost any other studio headphone I've heard, except the DT770 250 ohm. Two pieces of music I like to test treble with are Creep by Radiohead, where the cymbals in the chorus are particularly sharp, and Bangarang by Skrillex, which is, frankly, quite poorly mastered and is very shrill up top. Neither of these are a joy to listen to with the TH-900mk2. Then, while trying to enjoy the dropped tuning of the bass guitars on Korn's Freak on a Leash, I was unfortunately distracted by this hissing treble in the vocals. I was expecting a similar story with Playing God by Polyphia, but the TH-900mk2 somehow towed the line incredibly well, while also proving its ability to render natural instrument sounds incredibly well. I couldn't help firing up some Quake 2 RTX, and was both shocked and relieved to hear that the incredible imaging accuracy I heard in the music translated perfectly to positional cues in video games. Of course, it also helps to have an awesome heavy metal soundtrack playing in the background. I now want to make some very quick and dirty comparisons, but focusing purely on the bass. In the C tier, we've got the Magnat LZR 980. It sounds laid back compared to everything else and distorts early with bass boosting. Also, it's kind of an honorable mention due to its lack of availability, even in the second-hand market. In the B tier, we've got the Biodynamic DT770 Air Pro, the 80 ohm version. It compares relatively well, and it's fine as a tool, but it does nothing that stands out as being special. The Technics RPF1 is fun, easy to crank up, and takes huge amounts of bass boost without breaking a sweat, but is at this point very dated and sounds kind of low res beside the rest. The JVC HASZ 2000 with EQ, nothing on earth can beat this for sub-bass volume. It has natural disaster levels of bass after EQ, but the objective quality, it's pretty awful. Then there's kind of a big gap. At A tier, we've got the Victor HP D900. You didn't see this one coming, did you? Objectively, it sounds excellent, even for its age, but it can't take bass boost as well and starts to get boomy before it gets thunderous. At the S tier, you can't have a bass battle without this legend. The JVC HADX 1000 is a beast if you allow for tone correction. Its unique ultra-wide staging and bass combination is otherworldly and uniquely awesome, but it is ultimately bested for overall quality by the TH-900mk2. The TH-900mk2's bass quality is by far overall the best, by quite a significant lead. It's tight, textured, articulate, and utterly bottomless. As a side note, I have to say there's something special about testing some of the best bass-oriented closed-back headphones on earth all at once. and I'll be a little bit sad to see this one go. In case anyone was wondering how something like the Hi-Fi Man HE500 compared, there was no competition. Even the HE500, which is known for having excellent planar bass reproduction, cannot compete and exponentially crumbles the more bass boost is added. Of course, in many other aspects, high-end open backs always win, but that's not what this is about. The TH-900mk2 is stunning. I don't think there's even a very specific target audience for this type of sound or headphone. The overall tonal characteristics are well within acceptable average limits, if not pushing towards those limits, and the objective resolution is among the very best there is for any dynamic driver headphone. And the medium-sized staging combined with the pinpoint stereo image is utterly captivating. There aren't many modern masterpieces, but this I count among them. Take it easy, and I'll see you in the next one.